Good morning and welcome. It's Sunday, March 9th. It's now springtime. We've sprung ahead. Our daylight saving time uh, is started. We're no longer on winter time. My computer was fine about updating, but for some strange reason, it wouldn't let me open up the window. So I had a little difficulty getting in this morning. By last resort, I just rebooted the computer and it seemed to be okay. It's a warm welcome to this live stream. Fight CPS with your host, Bob Pace. Now, what is CPS? You hear this thing called CPS. A lot of you probably know what it is, especially the ones that have found me. I call it the Child Protection System. It's a system of government entities in every state and every county in the United States. It was mandated by Congress to social services to create a body of social service workers to protect our children from neglect and abuse. Yes, protect from our children from neglect or abuse. Now, social services is supposed to provide food and shelter and transportation and clothing and education and medical and even a job. Those are other parts of social services. They're also supposed to have an entity that deals with not only the protection of our children, but to put a family back again called family reunification. Now, I'm not saying all CPS is bad. The thousands upon thousands of child protection systems are good out there. But there are many that are rogue, meaning that they prefer the money part than helping out families or saving our children. It's sad that our government's got so corrupt. Now, I know right now we're having an investigation to our government, and one of them is social services. It's being investigated for waste, not only in the people, but the waste of money. And I know that that the child protection system uses a lot of money, makes a lot of money. Now, this neglect and abuse they're supposed to protect our children from happen every day. In fact, there's over 1,000 cases every day that go unreported that they should be investigating. Children are being neglected where they're not fed, not clothed, not taken to school, not supervised, not eating right, not taking showers. That's neglect. Abuse is physical harm to a child that's slammed against the wall, or a child that is very young and shaking his head rolling back and forth. Those are abuse, using cords and sticks as punishment on children. Make them standing on rocks for long periods of times. Any kind of physical abuse, that is abuse. So we have neglect and abuse that goes on every day of every month of every year. Now, what I'm talking about are the child protection systems that are not doing family reunification, that are taking children when they're not, are pursuing outright lies from the people that do call in and report child abuse and child neglect. 75% of the mandated reporters, which are the professional aspects, the doctors, the nurses, the firemen, the policemen, anybody that works with children is mandated by law to report suspected abuse or suspected neglect. 75% of the time they get it right. The other group are the mandated, or not, excuse me, are the lay people. These are everyday people, your family, your friends, your acquaintances, your neighbors, the day-to-day people that may or may not work with children, that call in to report to suspect something. The problem with either case, and 50% of the time that they are correct, so it's a 50-50 time that they're making up a story. And it's really sad. Hello, Isaac Nihal. I don't know where you're from, but thank you for the thumbs up. That's great to hear from you. My live stream has full of people from around the world. This is an international live stream. I've spoken to over 21 countries and all 50 U.S. states, including the District of Columbia, either by text or by phone call, either as a guest on my live stream or calling in. Now, these CPS, the Child Protection System, are entities. They have many types of different names, but they all do the same thing. In California and Orange County, they're called the Child Protection Services, CPS. In LA County, they're called the Department of Children and Family Services, DCFS. In Prescott, Arizona, they're called the Department of Children's Services, DCS. In Richmond, Kentucky, they're called the Cabinet. It goes on and on and on from state to state. And so far, in the 21 countries I heard from, it's just called the Child Protection System. I don't know what the formal names are from each country. Now, the countries that have called in to report their families were needlessly broken apart, or their child is in danger, or they lost their child to CPS. Yes, your children are not safe in CPS if it's a bad one. I've heard of horror stories where they take a child into custody. He's barely a year old, he barely walk, and next thing you know, he's out with the Child Protection Agency in an activity, and the child is found dead in a pinball box. That's the box where kids will play with styrofoam balls. They have those at IKEA. Anyway, the child was trampled on, couldn't protect himself, got lost in the balls, was found dead, and the mother was horrified to share her story. These stories and other stories are sad endings to a child who's brought in this world with innocence, with love. When two people make a baby, it's out of love. Now, there's many differentiations of love, but they care about that child. They bring the child to term, to birth, and then they have the child. The problem is that most parents, I think all parents, you're not born with a manual of how to make a baby or how to have a baby or how to raise a baby. It's through friends and family and trial and error. But when a baby's brought into this world, they need to be given the basics: food, shelter, clothing, and lots of love. They need to grow up so they can be an adult and learn to contribute to society, learn to be a part of society. Now, whether they're from other places, I've talked to Indonesia, Bangladesh, India. I've also talked to the Middle East, to Libya and Saudi Arabia. Then down to Africa, I've talked to Liberia, then over to Sudan, and then down to Rwanda, then to Mozambique, and then to several provinces in South Africa. Then up to Europe, England, Scotland, and Wales, and Denmark and Sweden. Then over the pond to North America, to 4 provinces in Canada. To all 50 states, I've talked to people, including the District of Columbia. Then south of the border, I've talked to Mexico. Then to South America, to Grenada. Then across the South Pacific to New Zealand, and then 2 states in Australia. That's internationally, and the 50 states of the U.S. That's over 1,000 people. I've been talking on this live stream since October 2023. I'm on twice a day, once in the morning at 10 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, and then again at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You said, wait a minute, it's not 10 o'clock this morning. No. On the weekends, Saturday and Sunday, I come on at 8 o'clock in the morning, 2 hours before 10. So on the weekends, I'm on at 8 o'clock. But that's 14 live streams a week, 7 days a week, twice a day. I've been doing that steadily. I've not missed a day yet. And that's even including the holidays that we have. I'm here for you. I'm a loving father and a husband. I've helped raise 6 children, and I have 42 years of marriage experiences. I have a lot of life skills, over 60 years of life skills. I've been working a long time. I've been working since the age of 15, 60 years. And I've worked in a lot of different kinds of jobs, from an ocean lifeguard to a marine animal trainer to a restaurant manager to a marine biologist to a civil engineer. That job and many other jobs. So I have a lot to share with you. I've traveled over to 50 countries. I've lived in 10. I've lived in several states of the U.S. and been to almost every state there is. But I'm here because I too was a victim of CPS. And I don't want the same thing to happen to me and my family happen to yours. I ran into a rogue CPS system. It was called the Child Protection Services in Orange County, California. And it is bad. I know firsthand. I know it's all about money. I know the social worker is bad. I had a bad one. I had a bad case. So I'm here to help you, to share my stories, and to help you understand or how you get your children back. I've come up with 5 rules. Hire an attorney, do documentation, say no to social workers and police, don't let them in your home, research the internet, spend a lot of time doing that. And lastly, get a copy of all your important records to have with you at all times. Now, I can talk a little bit more about those rules in a little bit. Now, this live stream you've come into has several ways, at least 4 ways of interacting. One is just by being in this room. You found me on Facebook fighting CPS, and I'm glad you did. And most of you know what CPS is. But a lot of you may not know how bad they are, or a lot of you may have experienced it. CPS cannot be trusted. They can manipulate you. They're not transparent. They retaliate. You're like Alice in Wonderland when you try to fight CPS. You've fallen in that hole, like in the story of Alice in Wonderland, the rabbit hole in the garden. You meet the Chester cat who directs you to one room and then to the next room. You don't understand. They don't make sense, a lot of these rogue CPS. They take your children whether they're in danger or not. They use the police to intimidate you. They lie and retaliate. You do not get a fair shot. And you have to be careful because you don't know which ones are bad and which ones are good. They hide, they make up rules that don't exist, and they steal your children. They traffic. They're the only buddy I know that can do trafficking illegally and get away with it. They alienate you from your children. They did with mine. And those 5 rules you heard me using, I did not know about those. If I knew about those, my children would never have been taken. Like a fool, I allowed them in my home. Like a fool, I talked to them. Like a fool, I let them take my children. There are constitutional rights and civil rights that protect you. You need to know them. Now, maybe when you took government in high school, you didn't pay close attention, but they're supposed to talk about things in government that would help you later in life. The only thing they didn't talk about it was the entity called the Child Protection System. This government entity has the backing of Congress, but they also allow things to happen which shouldn't be. Fighting CPS is like open heart surgery. You cannot cut open your chest cavity and pull your heart out and work on it. You're not trained or professional enough to do that. You need a professional doctor. Well, the same goes true with CPS. You need a professional attorney. This attorney has got to be schooled in juvenile law, dependency law, and family law. And this attorney should be experienced in fighting CPS and getting the children back. That's what you're looking for, is that kind of attorney. Now, I work for an attorney named Vincent W. Davis, who's that kind of person. He is a caring, loving man, but he's a pit bull of an attorney. He'd been fighting CPS for 39 years. He is licensed and trained in juvenile law, family law, and dependency law. He's a trial attorney. He once was a foster kid himself, so he knows about the foster system. He also will sue CPS in civil lawsuits. When the case is closed, he sues them. And he's won millions of dollars both in state court and federal court fighting CPS. Because you have civil rights and constitutional rights that get violated by this entity, this CPS entity. No matter where you are, they seem to hit you, and they hit the people. We all have something in common, very much in common. We're low income. Fighting CPS takes thousands of dollars. It's sad to say. I had to quick sell my home after I worked 45 years to get my home. I took a loss, a 50% loss on my home. After living in my home for 13 years, I got exactly what I paid for almost. It paid off my first and my second, but it left me with just very little to pay Mr. Davis. He was my attorney I needed to hire. I recognize me trying to do it pro se or trying to use court appointed attorneys was not going to work. The court appointed attorneys are a waste of time. You can threaten them with lawsuits that you'll sue them for negligence, or you can call the state bar for attorneys that they're not performing. But the court appointed attorneys are hired by CPS, controlled by CPS, and they are sad with over 30 or more cases. They don't have time for your case. They only talk to you when they're in court. You need to have ahead of time to talk to an attorney. You need somebody like Mr. Davis, and I want to thank him. He does fight CPS, not only as a job, but because of his desire to protect and help parents. He gives away so much of his time, and people have taken advantage of him and used him. He's owed a lot of money, but he also fights CPS, not only representing you, but going to forums and talking about it on his live streams and the books he's written. The CPS, the Child Protection System, have a fear of Mr. Davis. In fact, they use his videos to train their people how to fight a good attorney. He knows. I know firsthand because I hired him. He got back 2 of my 3 children. The first child, I will not blame him. I'll blame myself for waiting so long. I waited to almost a year before I hired him. If I hired him in the beginning, he would have said, like my rule number 5 says, don't answer the door. And certainly don't let the police or the CPS social workers into your home, into your life. He'll say, do not speak to them. And do not give up your child. There's only 3 ways they get into a home. One is that you give permission by answering the door, or one of your other family members does. It allows them in the house. They think automatically they have the right to search the house. They look at where things are. And what you may think is right, they may think is wrong. That's why you don't let them in. Secondly, if there is violence going on, the child is in danger, they will break in. Thirdly, if they have a warrant, it's a court order signed by a judge that the police or social workers get to gain entrance into a place and specific instructions on what needs to be done, whether they take your child or talk to you or search your premises. Now, I told you I'm not an attorney, but I've learned a lot in my 15 years of fighting CPS. Yes, that's a long time. That's a long time. Now, we have several people in my room, and there are several ways you can be interactive in my room. One is that you can type a text message to me about a question or make a comment about CPS. A question or comment about CPS. All I ask is that you show me your first name, the city or county you're from, and the state. And if you're from another country, please show me the same information, but show the country too. You may not have a state, it may be a province. That's fine. Show me your province. And then also try to be complete with your CPS case from start to finish. That way we don't have to spend a lot of time playing ping pong. I ask a question, you answer, and then I ask another question, you answer. It goes back and forth, back and forth. All I really need to know is what you were charged with, who's involved, what initially happened, and where you're at the moment. That's all I need to know. That way I can help you and focus and know what to do or say. Now, we have a new person just came in the room, and their name is Cooking with CERSR. Well, a first name would really help me. I'm glad you told me you're from North Carolina and Wake County. Okay, glad to meet you. And you guys have really gone through a lot with the storm that you guys had. I know you're still doing a lot of repairs. Some of you had your home washed down the river and don't have a home, and CPS is taking your child because they say you're not providing a home for them. I'm really sorry for the disaster you went through, and I do hope it gets better. I do hope it gets better. Christopher, thank you, Christopher, because that way I can refer to you a lot better. I know we like to put messages in our names at YouTube or Facebook, but Christopher's fine. And welcome, Christopher. What happened to you? How were you involved in CPS? If you could share that with us in this room, that would be great. Now I'm on for 1 hour. And as I say, one way is to text in a message. Another way is to be a guest on my live stream. To be a guest on my live stream, all you need to do is write to my show producer, Grace. She can be reached at her email of grace@vincentwdavis.com. Now, I have 14 live streams. That's 7 days a week, twice a day. All you have to do is give her one of the days of the week and either say morning or evening live stream, and she'll put you on there. She'll give you a link onto StreamYard. That's the application I use on YouTube. And if you get knocked off, use it again. It's good for the show. She'll also tell you what you can say and what you can do on the live stream. She'll give you a brief introduction, and she'll help you if you need to get on with your lighting and your microphone and so forth. She's very tech savvy. And once you're on, you'll be able to talk about your case and also see others and help them. I can have 9 of you on my live stream. So I look forward to having you on my live stream. Now, lastly, I have a phone number that you can call me right now. Direct line 626 698 0990. That number and the talk to me is available during my show times. Before my show times and after my show times, I cannot answer the call. But that number will stay up there, and please call me. We still have lots of time in the show. We're about half an hour into it. Now, another number on the screen I have is 888-888-6582. That's the law offices of Vincent W. Davis. When you call in, you're going to speak to reception. You need to tell them that Bob Pace sent you. And if you do talk to Mr. Davis, please tell him that Bob Pace sent you. Now, you can call in to get guides or to sign up or get questions about other live streams. You can also call up the retained Mr. Davis. If your mind's made up and you want a good attorney, you cannot go wrong retaining Mr. Davis. He's from Arcadia, California, but he travels all over. He'll fight you in any state, and he'll fight you in any county. He has cases right now in Riverside, San Bernardino, LA County, Orange County, Shasta County of Northern California, Kern County. He also has cases in Oklahoma and Missouri and Pennsylvania. So he's the real deal. He's the real deal. Now, Christopher says, I was in a trial home placement with my special needs daughter. All right. And in court, the judge ordered me to show a video of my daughter's outburst of her self-injurious behavior. Okay. The judge said that that restraining her from self-injurious behavior was abusive, and she took her and my other 3 children from me and my wife's home. The problem is, and I'm sad, Christopher, you're being honest. And that may have been a bad judge. Also, you do not show any videos or talk about your family unless you have legal representation. You need a real attorney who's licensed and trained in juvenile law, family law, and dependency law, not criminal law. Most of the court-appointed attorneys, CPS wants you to take them because they're only trained in criminal law. They're brand new and they're controlled by CPS. They're controlled by CPS. And that is a sad, sad state of affairs. They're controlled. Now, question, Christopher. Why couldn't your wife take care of the children? Was this directed to you and your wife? Was your wife involved in restraining your daughter? I know you tried to do the right thing, Christopher. I know you meant your intention meant, but you're with probably a crooked CPS in that county. You don't know that until you open it up. But I do know this. You need an attorney, a real attorney, and it costs money. I know you're tempted to use court-appointed attorneys. Now, with court-appointed attorneys, you need to make them do their job. They say, if you're going to represent me, you need to fight for my kids and my family back together. You need to be a fighter, and you need to do that. And if you're not, you're negligent. You're negligent, and I will sue you for being negligent, and I'll report you to the state bar of your behavior. So that's one way to make the court-appointed attorneys work. Whether they do that or not, I have no idea. I have no idea. I don't know how far along, but hopefully CPS has got a plan for you, a safety plan to get your family reunified. I have no idea why not only your wife could watch the children, why couldn't one of your family members do so? They put them in foster care as a last resort. They do try to put them with family members. They do try to do that. Okay, you say your wife was the one who took the video for documentation purposes, but she did protect the child. If you use abusive behavior to restrain an outburst of one of your children, that may be too excessive, and maybe what they saw. Yeah, they said that she was complicit with the hold. Yeah, meaning that she did not protect the child. So she's just as bad as you are. She's charged with neglect, and you're charged with physical abuse. I imagine those what the charges are. But that's not the end of the world. You should be able to do a family reunification plan. Both of you will need to take parent classes and maybe a program such as domestic violence. Now, domestic violence can be a lot of things. Don't let the name fool you. But it's a program that parents are taught how not to use certain acts when they're disciplining their children. There are techniques you can use to calm a child down. Things like timeout. You know, timeout is a wonderful life skill. Not only should children be used with timeouts, parents need timeouts. Workers at the workplace need timeouts. They do it all the time when there's football games. There's a thing called a timeout. What it does, it stops everything and people become complacent. They calm down. Then they regroup and they go back to what the task they're doing. So if you're giving a child a timeout, you tell them that behavior is not accepted, that you need to sit down someplace alone, away from all the video things and everything, and think about what you did. And then in your 5 or 10 minute session of the timeout, you say, we need to come back together and talk about it. And hopefully you can talk about it without being angry, without them yelling, stuff like that. And they can understand the behavior that you're trying to correct. In the workplace, if you're upset with your boss or things are bad, you just say, excuse me, I need to take a timeout. I'll be back in 15 minutes. And you go for a walk. In the workplace, there's nothing wrong with every hour taking a 15-minute break. There's nothing wrong with that. And as you go for your walk, you'll think about what happened. And then when you come back, you can talk to them and maybe work out a solution. Too many people let their anger control them and have killed people at the workplace. So a timeout's good. If a husband and a wife or a girlfriend and boyfriend or lovers are arguing or disagreeing, you just say time out. You may not be the right person to do that, but someone has to. So you say, time out. I need to go someplace for a walk, but I'll be back to talk to you. Now, if you live at the beach, maybe you two can walk to the beach, one go right, one go left, and then come back in 15 minutes and talk about it. I think older people need longer timeouts. Young children, it's 5 or 10 minutes. And that is with children that are able to walk and talk more at a child age. An infant or a baby doesn't understand a timeout. And you can hold an infant or a baby and cuddle them till they calm down. Now, Christopher says they use timeouts, time away, and restrictions. They changed the narrative and said the therapeutic holds was for discipline instead of to stop her from harming herself. If a child is going through seizures or an adult going through seizures, sometimes it's necessary to hold them so they don't hurt themselves or others. Now, with seizures, they tell to get the obstacles away from them and let them go through the motions and keep objects from hurting them. And eventually the seizures wear off. Now, I don't know if this child has physical or emotional problems. I'm not a doctor, and I think you need to make an appointment with their pediatrician who will tell you a specialist to see that knows about what kind of behavior your child is doing. But restraining a child, and I didn't see the video, I don't know how excessive it was something you don't want to show a judge, especially a social worker. Why? Because you don't know if that judge is corrupt. You don't know if that social worker is corrupt. CPS, there are a lot of rogue, corrupt CPS entities out there. They're strictly in for the money. It's $1 trillion business. That's why the social workers do what they do, and they get away with it. They lie, they retaliate, they will hurt families. They don't care. They want the money part. The longer they have your child in foster care, the more money they're going to make. The bonuses and incentives that the social workers are paid. It's terrible. There's no check and balances. There's no board of directors or supervisors that watch CPS. When the money goes from the federal government to the state, then to the county, it's not audited. No one knows how it's spent. It's not accountability. It flows like water. You turn the faucet on at the federal government, and trillions of dollars will go out to the counties, or to the states, I should say. And the states, in turn, keep the water flowing and pump it out to the counties. Now, we do have a government that right now is investigating government entities, and I know that social service is being investigated, and they will investigate CPS. Right now, there's an example in Richmond, Kentucky. There is $1 million that has gone unaccounted for to Richmond from the state of Kentucky. They have found one person embezzling $400,000. They will find the other $600,000. But I'm trying to tell you, not all CPS entities are good. They're corrupt. They are corrupt. And you in that county there in North Carolina, I think it's called Wake County, is corrupt. And when the CPS are corrupt, then you know the judges are corrupt. And you know that you're dealing with that Wake County CPS entity that just wants money. They just want money. And I'm sorry you're going through that, Christopher. Do you have an attorney? What kind of attorney is helping defend you? Because I say fighting CPS is just like open heart surgery. You, as a layperson, are not going to cut open your chest and take your heart out and try to fix it. You've got to get a professional doctor trained and schooled and knows how to do open heart surgery. Same thing goes with lawyers in fighting CPS. You need an attorney that's trained and educated in juvenile law, family law, and dependency law. It's family court you're in. And you need that kind of attorney like you need a doctor to work on your heart. That's the only way I can tell the analogy for you to understand. Without that kind of attorney, you're not going to get your kids back. It takes 2 to 3 years when you're investigated by CPS once they have your children to get back. It may take longer. It took me 3 years. It started in 2010 when I lost my job through no fault of my own. I started getting calls from CPS social workers. They were getting reports from my in-laws. I had no idea that they were doing so because the information is protected. I think they should change that because they were definitely manipulating the system. My wife's father, mother, 3 sisters, and brother were calling in once a week shortly after I lost my job to say they weren't taking care of our children. And the only thing I did to my family is I said, I lost my job. I'm determined to find another. But we're going to have to live a Spartan lifestyle because I no longer have the funds and I have high mortgages and high debts to pay and high bills. And that means no Coke, no chips or cookies, things that we don't need to live on. Also, we couldn't afford to go on trips for vacation or even to our season passes at Disneyland. We couldn't renew them or buy them. Like going to the movie theaters, things that the kids were used to doing. It was a terrible time for me because when the social worker called me, I had no idea who they were. And there's some outlandish accusations they were making of our family. You weren't paying your utility bills. I said, what? I then showed them my utility bills, how they were paid, how everything is in full. We weren't giving our children showers. They were cleanly bathed. They're in school every day. One of them was in private school. The other 2 are in public school. My children's grade report showed them A's and B's. I showed them parent-teacher conference meetings. Their back-to-school night activities. They're in activities in Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts and AYSO soccer. Their activities in plays and skits and recitals with music. We were heavily involved with their children. But the reports came in from my in-laws that were wrong. They were trying to take our children. They never were supportive of for 31 years of our marriage there. 31 years, they have yet to ever accept their daughter was married to me and that we had a life to do. So I know what you're going through, Christopher. Okay. Hi, Christopher's wife. I'm glad that you're listening to me. What do you do when the judge is corrupt? Well, you can report a judge that's bad. You can replace a judge that's bad. But again, it takes an attorney to do so. You need someone to fight for you that knows the laws. You can write a complaint at the state level and even at the federal level of a bad judge. That goes to the internet. I have rule number 4 that not only the research on the internet about CPS is how you phrase your question. People don't know how to ask questions or gear themselves the way that a browser works. You start off with the city and the state. And the city is a small city. You put a comma after your small city and put the large city next to it. Then after that, and you put the state, then you put the letters CPS. And it's going to bring up a lot of information about CPS in that city and state. So you want to refine it. You want to refine it, so you ask a question. You want a juvenile law, family law, dependency law attorney. There you'd find a list of attorneys that you can call and talk to and get the retainers and find out if the chemistry between you and them is good. You meet with them, you look at their references, and you'll definitely know whether you got the right attorney or not. But it's really hard to legally fight something because you're not trained in the school of law. Being pro se, you're helpless. You can go to the law library and learn, but it'll take countless hours and days of doing so, of finding out. So Christopher's wife, you need to do some research in the internet. I'd spend 60, 80 hours of researching CPS in North Carolina and Wake County to learn about everything there. Now, my time is up. It's already 9 o'clock. My show is from 8 to 9. And I can't take any more questions. I need to turn off my phone number, but I want to thank you all for listening. And I don't want you giving up. I'm on again tonight at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's California time, 7 p.m. And I'll talk further. Also, I'm on every day of the week, twice a day. So if you want more information or you want me to answer your questions or to help you, I'm here for you. I'm here for you. So I want you to still keep fighting with your case. It was a pleasure meeting you, Christopher and Christopher's wife. They're from Wake County in North Carolina. And they shared their story of the difficulties of disciplined children and getting their family back. Getting their family back. You will. All of you, keep fighting. Do not give up. You will get your children back. You have to fight for them. Do not give up on reunification. Keep saying you want reunification. Do what they ask, but do not talk to them. Do not see them at their office or at your home. You can see them at Starbucks or McDonald's or the library. That's a lot better. In the library, you'll have to get a private room because there's no talking in the library. Or you can meet in the lobby of the library, but then you may not have the privacy with other people listening in on your case. Same thing goes McDonald's. You need a place that you can be alone, and so forth with Starbucks. But a lot of people at Starbucks I see get together for their businesses, and they find an area that is away from the norm of the people there. But whatever you do not give in to them. Listen, be courteous, but work with your attorney. So keep fighting for your children. God bless you all. And I want to see you tonight. This is Bob Pace signing off.